Don't everybody all speak at once.
Hey, Matt, how are you today?
I'm doing all right.
Yeah.
You?
Hi, Matt.
Hi, Terry.
I'm Mr. President.
Hello, Professor Christensen. All right, we have a full agenda today. You may have seen that, oh, we're live now. Here we are. You may have seen that we may run over today. I'm trying not to make that happen, but we have a lot that we need to look at. And some of it's kind of time sensitive. And so if you would please open your participant windows. And those of you who are representing your divisions today, please click on the yes button, the green yes button in the participant window. I need to know if we have quorum. $19, one more for quorum. Unless our numbers have changed. We are, oh, thank you, Dwayne. I mean, Professor Christensen. Oh, that's not what I meant to do at all. Okay, I'll try this again. There we are. Lost all my windows, but that's okay. I can find them again. And what I meant to do was hit record. We're recording now. We have 22. That is quorum. And then I need to make sure that I have the correct co-host here. And you are now co-host. No, now you are co-host. Okay. Well, we're called to order at 3:03 p.m. First up is the Pledge of Allegiance. I've been practicing, so hopefully I get it straight today. If you would all please rise and face the flag. And ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God,
indivisible, and with liberty and
justice for all.
All right. Oh, I need to read something. Oh, I forget every time. In accordance with Executive Order N2920, dated 3/17/2020, and signed by Governor Gavin Newsom, this meeting is being held via teleconference. Votes will be conducted via roll call. The public had the opportunity to submit public comments via email. I will look here to see my email. While I have a bunch of emails, none of them say that they are public comments. So we are going to move on to the approval of minutes for May 4th, 2020. Does anybody have any corrections or amendments to offer for the minutes from the last Academic Senate meeting?
I do, Professor Hennis.
Professor Cairo, go ahead.
I apologize for maybe some change was made that I wasn't aware of, but I saw that in the vote that we took for the calendar, the names of the faculty of the senators that voted against it were included. Is this something that we're now doing?
Oh, okay. Thank you for asking. According to the Brown Act, we are to record the votes of every representative for every vote that we take. And rather than listing everybody's name, the way we're doing that is we have the attendance that's listed on the, I almost said syllabus, the attendance that's listed in the minutes. And we are recording the names of the minority, those who are voting in the minority, as well as abstentions. And then it would follow that everybody who's not listed in one of those two groups was part of the majority who voted.
Okay, thank you. And one other thing, could you tell me at what point I may make a comment regarding as to statements made by you during the calendar committee regarding the calendar vote?
We can back up just one moment and make it a public comment.
I appreciate, thank you.
Go ahead.
Okay, as I was listening to the calendar committee, I believe, and I apologize if this sounds rude, I do not intend to, but I don't think that the way you presented the vote was correct. in the sense that as our representative, your role should have been to inform the calendar committee that the Senate voted a particular way, in this case, for the winter. But you went ahead and made some additional comments that were not necessary, such as someone's vote not counting, such that the fact that the vote was closed, those type of things, it leads one to believe like you were hinting as if you disapprove of the outcome of the vote. Now that I do not know one way or another how you feel, but I think that your role should have been simply to say, this is the way the Senate voted, yes, no, and leave it at that. But allowing other comments to be made by Dr. Juni, for example, was not, I don't think should have been done. And I think that I would appreciate if you would simply, if I'm correct, by the way, to simply state how the Senate voted versus giving illustrations that it was close. They don't need to know that. If they do, they should have gone to our meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. And just to clear up any possible confusion there, a reference was just made that a vote didn't count. I was in error when I made that statement in the calendar committee meeting. I will clarify that with the calendar committee during this week's meeting on Wednesday. So thank you for your public comment. And we will now move back to where we were, which is the approval of the minutes from 5/4. Are there any amendments or corrections to the minutes? Not seeing any hands, we will approve those by unanimous consent. And when we say unanimous consent, that means we're recording everybody's names as having approved it, just so you know how that's working out. All right, next we are to our constituency reports. I haven't had a chance to look through the participants window, but
I'm here.
Oh, cool. So Professor Whitworth, let's go ahead.
Very quickly. We're almost done with the negotiations. We should, hopefully, we should be able to wrap it up on Thursday, I believe, where there's only one outstanding issue, one tiny little thing that we can't seem to agree on. And other than that, the FA elections will begin. Ballots will be available online as of Thursday morning at 7 a.m. And there are 2 contested positions, one for the adjunct VP position and one for director. And you can see those statements online, the candidacy statements, and the ballots will be available as of Thursday morning, and they'll be open until I think the following Friday, and you can vote online. And that's about it.
Okay, we do have a couple of hands raised. Professor Chafee. You are muted. If you're talking, we can't hear you.
I'm muted and then muted immediately again.
All right.
Mark, where does one find those ballots? Where would one find those ballots?
It will be in your inbox. You should have gotten an email this morning telling you how to do that, and there will be a couple other emails that'll go out as well, reminding people to vote and how to do that. It's a very simple procedure.
So it's electronic and it'll be in the
It's
email.
all online. Yes, it's electronic, very secure, very simple. You just click a couple buttons and that's it.
Okay. And then someone whose name is iPad. I don't know who you are.
iPad.
That might be me. It's James Aragon.
I don't know if I can answer.
Okay, Professor Aragon, you have a very common name, but go ahead.
Professor Aragon, there we go. Thank you. Yeah, Mark, mine was kind of a little off topic just in regards to the computer loan program. I've had some people ask about that. And
Yes.
I go to HR, or to have them go to HR for that loan program.
Yeah, you have to contact HR. And
Okay.
I don't know. You know what? I will try to find out who exactly you contact and let you know, James.
All right.
Because I'm sure there's something. I mean, it's pretty rare, but it's still in the contract. And as far as I know, it's still being honored. So, and I'll try to find out exactly who you may contact. You know, actually, Stephanie may, maybe not. Never mind.
All right. Thank you.
We'll wait for that information. Professor Cairo.
To answer James' question, I went through the program to get a loan to buy a computer through Best Buy, but the college no longer accepts checks from Best Buy.
No, Best Buy no longer accepts checks from the college, I think you mean to say.
Oh, I apologize. Yeah, yes, thank you. And so they referred me to Caltech to purchase a computer through them.
But the loan program is still in, okay.
Yes, it is.
And one thing I'm going to ask for is just a reminder of some of the behavioral norms that we've adopted this year. And that would be if we could refrain from addressing each other informally. And according to Robert's rules, we shouldn't be addressing each other by name at all, except for when I call on someone to share. But if we could use titles and last names, even though we are all informal in our homes wearing t-shirts and shorts, I would like to maintain a little bit of formality during our meetings, if you don't mind. Okay. Next up, adjunct faculty report. Do we have one, Professor Constantine?
Yes, we always do.
All right, welcome.
Yes, in terms of my report, I've been getting a lot of emails from adjunct faculty who are really upset, really unhappy with the courses that they're being offered for the summer and fall. I did remind them of the seniority list that should be posted and should be available for them. And I did remind them that the seniority list does not apply to the summer and the winter. But I think we may need to revisit the rehire rights of adjunct faculty, since many adjunct faculty are experiencing these problems as we speak. I did direct their attention to the FA to get some clarification. I know Dr. Giugini had said that they need to contact their dean initially, but some of them, even after contacting the dean, are still left without courses to teach. So I think in the future, we may need to revisit the rehire rights. I'm not sure if it's possible so that it's applied to the summer and winter, but I think that would be one option for adjunct faculty moving forward.
Thank you. Classified Senate, do we have a report today? I think I had information that there is no report today. Associated students, are you with us?
Hello, yes. So just a couple of things that are going on. We had our second town hall last week, which was focused mostly on student services. It had a great turnout as well as the first one. The campaigning for the executive board started today, and the voting is going to take place next week, the 27th and the 28th. This week, we also have the joint meeting with the Board of Trustees, where we were going to talk about all the events we had throughout the year. And finally, we're planning on sending the graduates and transfer students a care package just to congratulate them on their achievements. So,
oh, that's nice. At least they get something, right? Okay. Thank you very much. Excuse me, Management Association, do we have a report?
Yeah, well, more of an update, not necessarily a report, but again, we've been working, as I mentioned last time, to slowly return to campus and work. Again, it's nice to be back on campus. I was there last Wednesday with my staff, and again, slowly but surely, we're having a lot more folks come to campus. Aside from that, again, doing the work on there, we're working with our supervisors, our VPs, to just start addressing obviously the issues of the budget for the upcoming year, and just trying to find ways to really still support our students as best we can in light of the circumstances that will most likely be coming, as we saw from anybody who saw the May revise. So those are just the two main things obviously that we're working on, is just make sure that we can still readily support our students right now by returning to campus as often as we can, to make sure that they're ready to support any issues that need to be addressed then, and also just for what the future may hold. So that is all. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. We are on to our standing information items, and Professor Altunji is here to speak to guided pathways. We have a couple of beautiful slides. I don't know how you have time to put these together, but here we are.
It's recycling.
Ha.
I just recycle my slides. Hi, everyone. Just a really brief guided pathways update. Our career community lead, Professor Sheila Rose has been working with the associated students and the career communities, as well as other faculty leads who had helped us develop the kickoff event and all of the Canvas course, et cetera. So we're moving into the next phase of collaborating on events and planning career community related specific events. So the Freeman Center and the associated students are all in contact and communication with us. We hold career digs with Dr. Cecilia Rios Aguilar, and there will be one on May 29th. If anyone wants information, you're welcome to email me, and we can send you the link for that meeting. It's open to anyone. And then I hold program map office hours on Fridays from 9 to noon. If folks are interested in making any changes or updates or clarifying anything on the program maps, you're welcome to join me on Fridays, 9 to noon. So far, it's been super quiet, so you'll have all my undivided attention. And I have a little bit.ly in here if you guys, if anyone would like to join. The program maps, again, are located on the main site. If you dig in towards the bottom, towards where it says the career communities, and then the map links are embedded there. Next slide, please. And a little update from our success centers. Dr. Osegueda has been working with all the success centers on standing up the remote tutoring since March. So far, we've had 938 contacts. It was a little, it was slow at first, and a lot of outreach efforts have been happening over the course of the last couple of months to really help students navigate this new system and way of getting support for classes. All of our centers are online, and next phase is developing an evaluation process to make sure that we're serving students in the best possible way through tutoring. And the redesign of our learning resource centers is underway, and we're working all together with the career community folks and guided pathways and so on to really have our success centers be comprehensive and work in line with the guided pathways framework. So thank you for that.
Cool, thank you. All right. Up next, accreditation. We now have the introduction and standards 2 and 3 in their entirety available for review on the accreditation website. You would go to the PCC homepage, scroll down, very bottom, find the word accreditation, click on it, and then you'll be able to read those sections and provide any constructive feedback that you have in a respectful tone, as we said. And I've said it before, but I will say it again. I guarantee you, upon reading any of this material here, you will learn something about PCC. Doesn't matter how long you've been here, you'll learn something. It's pretty something. It's pretty fascinating here. And we're moving on to, we're now looking at standard 4, and then we'll look at standard 1. Our timeline is that we need to have all of this done by the end of this calendar year. And so in fall, the Academic Senate will have a chance to weigh in as a body, although you can all weigh in individually at the moment. Thus concludes our standing information items. And we are now on to campus status update. We have with us some additional guests today. We should have Dean Fleming, Dean Osegueda, Dr. Olivo, I believe Dean Terapelli, and then Director Robinson are here as well. And I have a sense that we kind of get what's going on right now, but we've also received some communication regarding summer and fall. And so I wanted to shift the conversation here to be forward-looking and seeing what we can expect there. My purpose in inviting Dean Terapelli, it is Dean Terapelli, is that correct?
Yes.
Cool, thank you. And Director Robinson, is that the executive committee of the Senate has been involved in conversations with those two individuals regarding professional development needs that that faculty might have, and that where we have resources or can direct people to resources. and to provide an understanding of what faculty will need to have under their belts to deal with summer and fall. So with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and invite, well, anybody who wants to start this conversation about instruction, campus status, summer and fall.
Well, Matt, you had just prefaced this by saying, I'm sorry, Professor Hennis, you had just prefaced this by saying that you think everyone is up to speed about where we are, just to be.
I did, and that may be an error, but go right ahead.
Oh, it's okay. We can just drill down into the PD part of it if
Well,
that's what you prefer.
Let's see. We have a hand, so maybe the hand can help me out of this here. Professor Foster.
I don't know if I can help, but we presented the grading policy we discussed at the meeting last time to our faculty, and we had a really good question, and that was, do we know when spring grades are due? Are we getting a little extra time? Because I think many of us are very far behind because we're developing content. And I don't know if that takes us off topic. If it does, I can wait, but if there's a quick answer, we'd love to give it to the faculty.
There isn't a definitive answer right now. We're still working with student services to figure out how, if we can delay grades being due, how late we can do that. I'm hoping that we'll come up with the answer to that this week, and we'll communicate it out as soon as we can.
Thanks.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
But just so that everyone's on the same page, registration has started for summer. It's entirely online. Fall will be primarily online with a very, very small percentage of courses meeting face-to-face. And those courses that are meeting face-to-face are the ones that absolutely cannot complete their coursework in an online format. The deans are currently working with the faculty to identify those courses. And then we will be working to figure out how it is that we deliver that content in the safest possible manner. And so that's what's happening with fall right now. In terms of the professional development, I'm going to defer to Dean Tirapelli to get that conversation started.
Dean Tirapelli.
Unmuting helps, huh?
It does.
We have, like all colleges, received information from the chancellor's office that in the spring, we all had to jump online without any notice, and that they were going to essentially give all colleges a pass in terms of that required faculty training to teach in a distance ed mode. But starting summer and fall, that is not the case. There is and there's an expectation by the chancellor's office and ACCJC that our classes meet the standards that are in Title V, that are in Title IV, Section 8 of the Rehabilitation Act, the Higher Ed Act, ACCJC guidelines. So there's a lot of things that faculty should be aware of, and then how you design your course so that you're meeting those requirements. That's what they are looking for. Luckily, what they're looking for also has been proven to be effective in terms of student success. And so it is not just to meet regulations, it's also to ensure that our students are successful in these courses. So like many colleges, we had to come up with a plan very quickly to figure out how we can ensure all of our faculty have the knowledge of what is expected of them, but also of their courses, but also what those best practices are for distance education to support our students in that mode of instruction. So I worked with the chair of the faculty online learning committee and with the distance education department. And we determined what those key items are, and we constructed out of that a 5-hour training where faculty will receive all the content knowledge that they would need to be able to then go and construct their courses effectively. We've gotten some very good feedback regarding the 5-hour training. In fact, some have said it's a great resource in general and that we should actually have it out there for all faculty to see. So I think we're going to glean from that the items that they thought was most useful and make sure that people are able to see that information. We talk a lot about process and policy as well in terms of drop policies for online classes, and the check-in assignment that's required at the beginning of the term and how that correlates to what's considered the first day of attendance, and then also what the rules are regarding the last day of attendance per Title IV for online courses. So there's a lot of great information in there. And then concurrently, we're offering what we've always offered. Over the last year, the in-house training, 8-week training, has been the way faculty have completed their certification requirements to teach in an online format at PCC, and that continues. But it is not, that full training is not required to have a fall or summer assignment. The minimum 5-hour training is what is required. Faculty can choose to take that full training in the summer, in the fall, or in the future. But if they want an online assignment after the emergency period, then they would need to complete that full DE training, or anytime thereafter if they wanted a DE assignment. And we still, the @ONE offerings are still courses that faculty also take to meet the same learning outcomes. In fact, our training is all based on the state standards that @ONE has constructed for all California community colleges. So those learning outcomes are all aligned between the 5-hour training, the 8-week training, and what @ONE requires for their training.
Good deal. Okay, we do have a couple of hands here. Professor Fiebig.
Hi, thank you. My question is actually for Dean Terapelli. I just sent you an email earlier about this too, but I think it'd be good to get a general answer. Is the committee or is PCC really looking at types of testing security systems for the fall? I'm specifically thinking of some of my colleagues who work at College of the Canyons. When they teach online, there's a system called Proctario that kind of locks the computer down and kind of prevents cheating. What is PCC looking at in terms of something like that?
So we have a group right now investigating this specifically. And we're actually going quite deep into it because we really want to understand what the ramifications are for bringing a system like that onto our campus. Currently, there are a lot of movements to actually not permit those types of systems on campus, including Duke. They just outright banned them because of privacy reasons. So we are doing research right now to see if we can come up with solutions for our faculty, which may end up being the technology. But we also are looking into possibilities of on-ground tutoring, proctoring with social distancing and the whole 9 yards to ensure our students are safe. But we've just started that conversation, but it is definitely on our radar. I do know that proctoring systems and lockdown browsers are difficult for many of our students because it requires them to have a computer that is a Mac or a PC, not a Chromebook. It requires that they are on a computer that they can download extensions on, which sometimes if they're using a work computer or a PCC computer, they can't. It does require they have a camera and a microphone, a quiet place that's clear as well. So for some of our students to meet those requirements is going to be quite difficult. And I do know that Mount SAC is having a difficult time with that digital divide. And in addition to that, the fact that the internet connection must be stable, and that is also very problematic. And that's why we're looking at this in a multi-pronged way, because we really want to make sure that we're addressing this not only to meet the needs of our faculty and the curriculum, but also for our students. And so it's complicated.
Yeah, that's true. Professor Chafee.
Hi, this is also for Dean Tirapelli. Because I'm writing and listening at the same time, I often miss things. Did you mention where, because I know the faculty a lot of them are going to be wanting to take this 5-hour training, obviously, myself included, and how would one do this?
Okay, so today, just before the meeting, we did send the registration link out to all faculty with the options in quite a bit of detail so that they can make the right choice for themselves, okay? Once you register, it's an Eventbrite registration, you will get a message saying that within 3 business days, you'll be added to the course. We say 3 business days because if you register on a Friday, guess what? We're not adding you to the course till Monday because that's a manual process by one of our staff members. So we wanted to give ourselves a little wiggle room there, but you will be added.
I need to interrupt just for a moment. We are out of time on this topic, and so we need a motion to extend if we're going to continue.
I move.
I second.
Do you have a time frame?
5 minutes.
Okay. And second, so we'll just go ahead and unanimous consent, 5 minutes. Go ahead, please.
So then the faculty member gets a direct invitation from Canvas to join the course. The course is fully self-paced. I'm seeing from the data that it is taking an average of 5 hours, for some people 3, for some people 7. It depends on the pace that they are going and how much they choose to do, some of the activities that are incorporated along the way.
Thank you very much.
And I'm seeing that email came at 2:09 p.m. today, so you'll be looking for an email from PCC online, is that correct? Yeah. And yeah. Okay. While you're here, I don't know if there's anything further for Dean Tirapelli or if you have anything further for us. Then Director Robinson, do you have anything you want to share with us regarding professional development? Not specifically related to the DE training that Dean Tirapelli spoke about.
The one thing that hasn't been mentioned that I will add is the faculty and staff page of the PCC website has been revised and added as a page specifically to support instruction in the remote environment. And if you click on that link, take you to a new page where different aspects of remote instruction are available for a drop-down menu. And there are specific little videos and really accessible resources for faculty that they could use now to help with the rest of this semester. In addition, on that page, there is a calendar of events. We're trying to curate lists of webinars and online events that we know will be worthwhile and putting those onto the calendar so you can access it there.
Okay, and I would like to say, just so everybody can hear, that we have communicated to both Director Robinson and Dean Tirapelli that one need that keeps coming up from faculty is that of ADA compliance training. And so they are aware of that. There are resources that will be forthcoming, is my understanding. Dean Tirapelli, you are muted.
In the 5-hour training, we do have some basic accessibility training and also resources to expand their knowledge on that. But that reminded me that we have an announcement that we have a tool called Ally, and Ally is an accessibility checker that is integrated into Canvas. And it will scan your course and it will let you know which items need to be fixed in some way to make them accessible. So we're really excited about this. It'll be a tool that will be very valuable to faculty. So we'll have training starting at the end of this week. And by the end of this week, you'll also see the link to Ally in all Canvas sections. What we want people to just keep in mind is that accessibility is a process, and that you're not expected to just automatically have the perfectly accessible course. Sometimes it does take time to get through PDFs to get them compliant, through Word documents, PowerPoints. So what I like about this system is it has a low-hanging fruit section. And those are the things we really want faculty to focus on first, because then you get a percentage of your course out of the way in terms of accessibility. We'll also have something like Tuesday tutoring available. We're calling it the Ally Hour. And you can come and work with our team if you need support using Ally and or getting materials into an accessible format. From the student perspective, they do not see your report or your score on how accessible or not your course is. But what they do see are opportunities to download or receive the content in alternate formats. So they are able to download something into an audio file that is currently a Word document, or into a electronic Braille format, or into an HTML format, because screen readers often read those easier. So it gives students choice in terms of how they receive their course content. One thing to keep in mind is that it'll only look at the things that are physically, which are loaded right into Canvas. It cannot tell you if the items that you're linking out to or that you've integrated, say, publisher materials, those will not be reviewed by the system. So anything you put into the files area, any files you upload, any pictures you upload, any videos, PowerPoints, PDFs, and so forth. So it's the content you are putting into your course that it reviews.
Okay, thank you. We do also have some information from student services. I was provided with some slides, and we're out of time again for this topic. So if we can have say a 3-minute extension. Professor Winter, you've raised your hand. Are you offering a motion for a 3-minute extension?
I am.
Okay, is there a second for that motion? Professor Simon seconded. We'll take that by unanimous consent. So we will go on for 3 more minutes. I know that that's a big ask, Dr. Olivo, but I have the slides here.
Yes.
And we
Hi,
don't.
everyone.
There you are. Okay.
Hello. Let me try and get my gray hairs out of the screen. Hi, everybody. I put together some slides so that Matt can share them with you later. I just wanted to let everyone know that while we've been on remote, we've still been very accessible to students online. As a matter of fact, in academic counseling, we've provided service to almost 7,000 students through various means, including video conference counseling, phone calls, emails, etc. We're still doing all the work we would have done if we were physically present every day, such as clearing prerequisites and providing academic support. Next slide. Our Lancer Pantry, we provided 500 grocery bags at our drive-up service before we gave away our gloves and masks to Huntington Hospital because they needed them. And then we switched to electronic grocery store gift cards. We've given out 900 of those and provided 600 referrals to students for their food pantries located in their communities. Next slide. In the Welcome Center, we've provided help to students who hadn't logged into Canvas yet. There are around 800. And then now we're focusing on returning adult students who also need a little bit more help navigating the various parts of registration. Next slide. And I wanted to let all of you know that we are gearing up for our new students. And on the 21st, we're hosting an online open house on YouTube Live. We have 1,041 students and parents signed up for that. as well as almost 700 of the students signed up for a virtual pre-registration workshop so that we can get all of our students enrolled for fall. And in DSPS, we provided service to over 2,000 students with various needs of accommodations, class advisement. I had a staff member coming in every week since we closed to convert materials to Braille for our students who are blind and visually impaired. Next slide. And in transfer, of course, we're still working to preserve our student success and help students navigate the complicated world of transfer in coronavirus era. And we've helped over 2,000 students make their decisions. Next slide. And in financial aid, we've awarded almost 5,000 students with their Federal CARES Act. We're still waiting for around 581 students to accept their award. We've been doing mass text messaging, emails, and phone calls to the students. And we received around 3,455 applications for emergency assistance. These are individual applications where students are explaining their individual circumstances. Next slide. And we've provided around 1,500 of the students with $200,000 overall. In the admissions and records area, we've processed around 5,000 excused withdrawals. This is not where students are completely leaving us. This is just like individual courses of their 3 to 5 courses they're enrolled in. And of course, we're still processing the pass, no pass requests. We're verifying students who are graduating. A lot of students attend other colleges, so we have to manually look at those courses. And so far, there are around 5,500 graduates. So we're really excited about that. It's on par with last year. Next slide. As I was stating, we are working through our emergency aid. Dr. Micaela Mares Tamayo is leading this. And we still have around 2,000 applications to go through, but we feel like we're going to get through around $600,000 of emergency aid. And so far, of the students who didn't qualify to get those funds, I'm working with the PCC Foundation to send Instacart grocery delivery to 42 students. So at least they'll get some kind of support. Next slide. In mental health and wellness, I do want to ask all of you faculty members to please look at our personal counseling website. Dr. Jason Vasquez provides updates, and there's pages on how to deal with anxiety, fear, trauma, and it's really great info for you to link students to. And over 200 students have been assisted with health and personal counseling since we closed, and they're currently developing a webinar on how to deal with racism and microaggressions regarding COVID-19. I'd be happy to answer any questions if you have them.
Are there any questions? I will be sending these slides out, or maybe Judy Benson will be doing it for us, but you will get these slides in your email. Professor Chafee.
Oh, could I just see the first slide again, please?
Okay.
Thanks.
Yeah, sure. Okay. I know that was a big ask to fit that into 3 minutes. I do appreciate that you were prepared for the time constraints that I had communicated to you ahead of time. Are there any?
No problem. You all are extremely important in delivering this info to students, so no problem.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there any other questions, comments, concerns from our Academic Senate representatives for this topic? Okay, and we did go pretty far over time on that one, like by, I don't know, a minute and a half. We're going to move on to the next item, which is consent item C, hiring committee appointments. And we are revisiting a hiring committee that we had previously staffed, but due to some changes that have occurred, we are now recommending for approval for this committee, James Aragon in counseling and Joe Perone, kinesiology, health, athletics, to the football coach hiring committee. It is a consent item, and so if there are no objections, we will approve this by unanimous consent. Are there any objections to approving this by unanimous consent? Consider it approved. Oh, well, Professor Luca raised a hand, and then I see a no. I'm not sure what the no means. Oh, do you have is it, okay, Professor Luca, I'm going to say that this is a technological glitch thing because I called it, but there was a hand up. So Professor Luco.
I vote no.
Oh, okay. Then we will not do this by unanimous consent. And now that we're not going to do it by unanimous consent, we need a motion to approve these two individuals for this hiring committee. Prior to my asking for there to be a motion, I see Professor Cairo's hand is up. Go ahead.
Thank you, Professor Hennis. I was just going to ask, could you at some point let us know of any of these committees that we forwarded? Have they frozen the hiring of any of the people that any of the committees that we submitted at a later time?
Not that I know of that we have submitted.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. So is there a motion to approve these two individuals for this hiring committee?
I'll make the motion.
Thank you, Professor Jaramillo. And it is Professor Constantine, can I take your hand as a second?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, is there any discussion on these? Oh, you're right, for Director Robinson. I will come right back to the main reason you're here. Okay, is there any discussion on this consent item? Okay, seeing no discussion, we will approve this by a roll call vote.
I'm sorry, Matt, I had a question. I couldn't get my,
Sure.
yeah. So this is what we voted on last week. Are you able to give us any information why it was recalibrated?
I believe it was 2 meetings ago. And there was a ruling that there had been a conflict of interest.
Okay.
And for any further details, I will refer you to HR.
Nope, that's all I need to know. Thank you so
Okay.
much.
Yep. Professor Stoddard.
So if I remember when we did the voting, Professor Aragon pulled his name from the group and there were other people included in the voting process. Can you explain why these two people are being brought forward?
Yes, of the remaining people who were on in that voting round, Secretary Jaramillo reached out. Actually, what she did was she reached out to everybody who had initially indicated interest, and there were 3. Of those 3, 2 replied in the affirmative, and so that's how we got these 2 names here today. There had been 7, I think 6 total. And I'm sorry, Professor Jaramillo, can you?
That is correct. Yeah, we had reached out because we had gotten some people who weren't, we did have some volunteers who weren't trained, right? HR trained. So they couldn't be on the committee. So the people I reached out to were the people left. So I reached out to, there was 3 individuals I reached out to who were on the original pool.
That's right. So there were 6 names that we put forward. 1 of them dropped out. 3 of them were selected. And then of those 3, 2 of them have been indicated to be replaced.
That's right.
Professor Aragon. If you are speaking, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, because I know I did provide a statement, and this was voted on a few weeks ago before the technical director for IT. And I had pulled my name because I thought it was well represented by the individuals that applied, originally. But I'm definitely still interested in and do appreciate support. So thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is there any further discussion? Okay, then this will be a roll call vote because there is an objection to unanimous consent. Well, okay, so I see that it's time, but we're going to call the roll call vote. That'll be the time for this here. And so, Secretary Lopez, you're up. Oh, you know what? Sorry, to expedite things, if you are an alternate representing your division, if you would please click on the yes button, then we will know to call for you. All right, seeing none, go ahead, Professor Lopez. We don't hear you.
Okay.
There you are.
Professor Allen?
Can I just say abstain?
You can.
I abstain.
Eragon? James Eragon?
Yes, unmuted, sorry. Thanks, Doctor.
Susan Bauer?
Aye.
Kaido?
Aye.
Chafee?
Aye.
Christensen?
Aye.
Constantine?
Aye.
Puat?
Yes.
Indoor?
Abstain.
Fiebig?
Yes.
Fortuna Dean?
Yes.
Foster?
Abstain.
Gonzalez?
Aye.
Hinsman?
Yes.
Jaramillo?
Yes.
Jerome?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Lang?
Yes.
Leon?
Yes.
Lopez? Yes. Luco?
No.
Melnarek?
Aye.
Miranda?
Yes, sorry, trouble with the mute button.
Okay. Pangan? Pierce? Rigon?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Rose?
Yes.
Ruiz?
Abstain.
Scott? Schuper? Simon?
Yes.
Stoddard?
Abstain.
Swaminathan?
Yes.
Vendresco?
Yes.
Vinto? Wilbur?
Yes.
Williams? Winter?
Abstain.
Rapu?
Is that all the names,
That's
Professor?
all of them.
Okay, that motion carries. And we can now move backwards because I was informed I skipped an agenda item, and that was to my apologies. It was certainly not intentional. We are going back to item G2, which is professional development updates. These are coming to us from the Professional Development Committee. And I believe we're going to hear from Professor Hatch and or Professor Foster and or Director Robinson. So we will go ahead and open it up first now, the PCC integration with the Vision Resource Center.
And actually Valerie's going to, or Professor Foster is going to present just a little bit of context first about how PD has been evolving.
Perfect, Professor Foster.
Yeah, hi. So as you know, I'm a biology professor and I'm also the chair of the Faculty Development Committee and I'm a co-chair of the PD Standing Committee. So I work closely with Jason, and Nick. So we just thought it would be helpful to provide everyone with an overview of how the PD program at PCC has been evolving over the past few years. In January of 2018, we hired our director of PD that kind of officially opened the Office of Professional Development. Of course, that is Dr. Jason Robinson. In fall of 2018, PCC's administrative procedure and organizational structure for professional development were revised and approved through the shared governance process. In spring 2019, the administration procedure outlining our Flex Calendar program was approved through shared governance. And the last year or so, 2019 through 2020, the PD Standing Committee has been focused on two tasks primarily. First is articulating a set of professional learning outcomes for the entire college. And we've done this by kind of mirroring it with our new strategic plan. And that's been kind of an arduous task because there are 3 different constituent groups, all with different PD needs. And, you know, professional learning isn't a one and done thing. It's kind of a path. So lots of discussion about those. And then the second task has been to identify sets of professional development experiences for each constituent group that would help them to realize those outcomes.
And in support of those learning outcomes, I want to tell you about a big piece, Vision Resource Center. Hi, everyone. I'm Nicholas Hatch. I'm an instructor in nutrition and kinesiology. I'm also the current Flex program coordinator. So the Vision Resource Center has actually been around for a couple of years. It by the Chancellor's Office support for meeting the Vision for Success goals that were outlined in 2007. In fact, a lot of you may already be familiar with the Vision Resource Center because in the time that's been people have been able to create accounts if they wanted to see what's there. For those who aren't familiar with it, it's an online platform. Similar in some ways to a learning management system and LMS like Canvas, or a streaming service like Netflix, or even to some degree, social media platforms. The primary purpose is to provide centralized access to various professional learning services like lynda.com, which has now been absorbed by and called LinkedIn Learning, or Soft, which are services to which we've had access for a number of years, and which a lot of people have already taken advantage. Continued access to these is now streamlined by their inclusion into the Vision Resource Center. So that's what the Vision Resource Center is, but it's more than just centralized access to professional learning services. By integrating the college, which is really what I'm here to talk about today, we're given our own little corner of the Vision Resource Center, which has been specifically customized for us, or I should say customized by us because we're doing that customization. When you log in through single sign-in, which means using your LancerPoint username and password, you'll be guided to a PCC-specific welcome page, and you'll also have your own personal learner page as well. Within this customized corner of the Vision Resource Center, you'll to see professional learning, not just that's online, but also what's there at the college, in addition to those things like LinkedIn Learning and Skillsoft. We've been working on this process of integration since January, so we've been at it for a little while. And when I say we, I mean a team of people that includes our colleagues in IT, people in HR, other parties as well, to coordinate this fairly sizable undertaking. We're really pleased with the progress we've made so far. And I actually have a couple of screenshots, if you'll permit me to show them. Otherwise, I could just describe them.
I don't know what my settings are, but if you can share, go ahead and share.
Never mind, I'm disabled. It's okay. You'll be able to see it soon enough. So I'll just describe it. The welcome page is much like the dashboard of Canvas. It includes a few, I think it's pretty clean if I do say so myself. It includes just a few navigation items. It's got a button to take you to your personalized learner home, which I'll talk about more here. It also has a button for entering external training. So if you were to go to a conference or something like that, you could click that button to find a form to enter those external trainings. There's also a link out to a calendar of workshops that are happening at PCC. Those workshops will also appear on the global calendar, the global PCC website calendar. And if you were to find it there, you would be directed into the Vision Resource Center where you could for that. And then the last button is a button to do searches for things that you're interested in. Was a particular learning that you were interested in finding out more about. So that's one piece of the homepage. Another prominent part is a transcript. So the transcript would show the most recent professional development items in which you had been involved. So things that you had either in progress or things that you had completed. A list of those, you can also click on that, which would take you to a fuller transcript where you could see all things ever that you had done recorded inside the Resource Center. And then another, the last piece on the homepage that we're excited about is a graphic that would show you specifically about Flex. Right? So what the Flex obligation is and how many hours you had completed towards that. That first navigation item, the learner homepage, is a slides page, kind of like, I don't know, your page on Facebook or something like that, where you would you can customize it with a picture of yourself through your profile. You could enter subjects that you were interested in, so that you had learnings directed to you around subjects that interested you. It has a playlist function if you're interested in that, so you could create a playlist of things that you had found, LinkedIn learnings and things like that. If you wanted to kind of put together your own little list of things that kind of strung together and you thought were helpful, you could do that. And people could follow your playlists and watch learnings that you had put together in sequence. And then it also has, this is where the Netflix part comes into, it has these kind of carousels for things that are suggested based on subjects you're interested in and various things like that to help you find that. There are a few other features. There's also a community where you could some learnings, and we have a few ideas for that as well. So like I say, you'll be able to see that because we'll actually be going live with that program here pretty soon. But to conclude, just our integration piece.
Before you conclude, where would we find these things? Where does a faculty member go to? Do we go to vrc.org or?
Good question. No, the beauty of it integrating with single sign-in is that we can put it on the, for example, faculty and staff page. So you have a link to that. You click on that link, you would go through with your LancerPoint credentials, and that would take you into the Vision Resource Center. We're also doing it inside LancerPoint, so that if you were already in LancerPoint, you would have a link to it there. And probably also on the professional development webpage. It's going to be on the professional development webpage, and you could find it there.
So when you say integration, you mean integration. I got it. Okay.
So to conclude these thoughts, the benefits really of integrating with the Vision Resource Center are severalfold, I think. First of all, it provides a centralized place, in essence, to all PD opportunities that are happening on campus. So that includes the online trainings like the LinkedIn and Microsoft and others like that, but also face-to-face workshops, right? So anything that's happening on campus, we could put on there as well. And also mandated trainings, things like sexual harassment come up once a year, could be found in a centralized place. A second benefit to faculty includes,
before you get to the second benefit, I have a question. I don't know if it's related to the first benefit. So Professor Chafee.
Thanks. So I've got a really bad connection here. So when would this all be up?
Sure, I didn't actually mention yet, but we will be going live with this at the beginning of June. So we're actually just a few weeks away.
Thank you.
TikTok, but very soon.
Cool. Okay, the second benefit you were getting to.
All right, so a second benefit is that it allows for an ongoing transcript for tracking and reporting Flex as well as other professional development activities, which includes those trainings that are external to PCC, right? So things, those in lieu activities. And in fact, rather than that once a year form that you'll actually be receiving this week for reporting what your professional development activities have been across the year, instead just have a running record of everything completed to date, and you won't have that extra step of having to fill out a year to account for that. So you'll be able to log in at any time, see what you have left to complete, and you'll have a transcript of that to show. A third benefit then is that it provides an opportunity, and this is fairly timely, for us to host a remote PD day in the fall. So our integration into this platform comes at a pretty good time, and we're pretty excited that we'll be able to leverage its capability to provide either a hybrid or a completely remote professional day in the fall. And so we're looking at how we can not only introduce that and get the word out, but also get the inside that system so that we'll have it available to us. So just the last thought, our corner of the Vision Resource Center, like I said, will be live at the beginning of June, so coming up very soon. Prior to that, we're also sharing this information with the Classified Senate, as well as the manager, right, because it affects all parties across campus. And once we do go live, we'll be following up with the entire PCC community via email to inform everyone of this new platform, and then very quickly thereafter, of their ability to start looking at what we have scheduled for the Fall Professional Development Day and start signing up for those things as well and preparing for that. Cool. And with that, if anybody has any further questions, I'd be happy to.
So an online professional development platform that integrates with PCC and helps employees keep track of the professional development for credit that they have taken part in.
In a nutshell.
Perfect.
It's a lot of things. It's a lot of things with a lot of functionality, but yes.
Yeah, that sounds like it. Okay. I'm told the time is up for this, but we still have PD standing committee outcomes. And so I'm going to ask for an extension. Do you have a sense of how long you want to talk about the standing committee outcomes?
So actually, that was just what Mr. Foster mentioned earlier, just that the professional development has been working on articulating a series of outcomes.
Okay.
And then the second point that there are some signature experiences.
Got it. Okay, so that was basically a piece of information that something is being worked on and will be forthcoming. Yeah. Got it. Perfect. Okay. If there are any questions, let's go ahead and address them now. Okay, seeing none, then we will put these folks on a shelf for just a moment because they're going to appear later in the agenda. But before we do that, because what they have will be new business, we need to look at our unfinished business. And I just hadn't had my slides straightened out here. And the first piece of unfinished business is this resolution 20.3, quality of instruction via remote learning. And I'm going to go ahead and share it now. If I can find which document it is in my Zoom window. There it is. And you should be seeing it now. I have a feeling that if I do this, it may be better. And so this document has not changed since it was presented 2 weeks ago and sent out with the last agenda. I will cut to the chase here. Resolved that the Academic Senate commends and recognizes efforts made by faculty across the campus. Resolved that the Senate recommends all instructors to continue to use to ensure regular and effective contact, provide access to course materials, which may include extensive use of Canvas, using email, holding conference hours, initiating contacts with students on at least a weekly basis, providing access to course materials via either synchronous or asynchronous methods, ensuring course materials are ADA compliant, and checking for understanding using a variety of authentic assessments using modules. Resolved that the Academic Senate recommends instructors maintain academic rigor to the degree possible while also considering how various demands on students' time and attention may impact their ability to adhere to previously published timelines. And that we request the administration of the college continue to provide and expand professional learning and support to faculty regarding tools, pedagogy, student engagement, and student success in the remote environment. Those are the resolves in a nutshell. Well, those are the results. And at this point, it would be, we can open it up for discussion. If we want to stick to Robert's rules, then a motion would need to be made prior to discussion. I do see some hands up. Professor Constantine was first.
Yes, I had a question about the reasoning behind the resolution. Where did it initially come from?
It came from observations that I made based on anecdotal and mostly anecdotal stories from instructors and students, and realizing that faculty needed to be ensured that they had support to support their students, and then also to ensure that faculty are supporting their students. Parliamentarian is letting me know that we should get a motion before discussing. And so I'm going to make a presumption here. Professor Hintzman.
Yes, I would like to move to approve resolution 20.3.
Cool. Is there a second to the motion?
Lindsay Ruiz, I second.
Thank you. Professor Foster, well, you get to take first crack at it if you'd like, Professor Hintzman, because you made the motion.
Oh,
but you don't have to.
Okay. Well, no, I would just like to say that I did share this with my colleagues and didn't come across anyone who had any great unpleasant feelings towards it. They really thought that it was supportive and recognizing the hard work we've been doing and encouraging us to continue and encouraging the administration to continue supporting us in this great adventure.
Okay. Professor Foster.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a clarification when you were asked how this came about. I thought that at the last meeting, it was stated that also there was a survey sent out to students, and quite a large percentage, somewhere around 20%, stated that they hadn't received any contact whatsoever from their professors. And I think that's an important thing, because I think a lot of people who maybe had a negative reaction to this are feeling like they're doing a lot, and they probably are, but they don't necessarily know that there is a large proportion of faculty out there that may need some more, I don't know, nudging or support from the Senate.
Right. So 2 points. I thank you for that. 2 points of clarification. One is that it was close to 20% of students who had said that they had not received contact from all of their instructors. It was a fairly small percentage of students who said none at all. But yeah, there was that 20% number. The second point of clarification is that those survey results, I received them on April 20th. And this resolution, which was after spring break, this resolution was actually created during spring break. So the resolution or the survey supported the anecdotal stories that I had heard that led to the creation of the resolution. But as far as the answer to like, where did this come from? I knew the survey was out and was going to be coming, but I hadn't seen the results of the survey before the resolution was created. Just a couple of points of clarification there. Professor Melnarek and then Stoddard.
Counter to Professor Hintzman, I got feedback across my division and found uniformly opposition to this and nothing in favor of it. Much of the opposition to it seemed to be focused on the sort of finger wagging tone of this addressed to the entirety when the problem is with the minority. To go back to the earlier comment, I agree that the town put in a lot of effort to make the transition over to online teaching. And if there are instructors who haven't made that, if there are in fact people who have had literally zero contact with their students, then yes, obviously it needs to be addressed. My faculty in my division weren't convinced that this was the means of doing that.
Okay. Professor Stoddard.
Thank you. I have 2 questions. The first question is, what was for clarification, what is the sampling? How many students were surveyed? One, and the second question is, what was done once we identified the instructors in this very flexible time to help them by, like, for example, as students, as faculty, we reach out to students several times. How many times have these faculty that are represented in this number of 20% were approached by fellow faculty in an effort to help them? So the first part is what percentage, what number of students were sampled? And that 20%, how many of those faculty were reached out to by fellow faculty?
Okay, to the first question, there were 2,302 respondents to the survey.
So just for clarification, that's less than 10% of our student populace.
Correct.
So a sampling would be somewhere around, I didn't do the math quickly, but somewhere around 9% or maybe even a little bit like an upper 8%. And of that sampling, they said 20% of their faculty had not reached out to them. And the second question?
I do not know the answer to the second question. I was never, I don't know. The survey was, I believe, anonymous on the part of the students. And so their instructors weren't identified through the survey. And so I don't know what sort of follow-up would have been possible based on this particular survey.
May I make a comment?
Yes.
With clarification of those 2 numbers, it seems like we've had a month since we've returned from spring break. The survey, the request for this resolution was before spring break. And I'm disappointed that we've done nothing to try to reach out to those faculty. We were faculty was told one thing on March 13th, and then each ensuing day after that, we were told several other different things. I think in this process of going through to spring break, which was those few weeks where we were all put into a different environment, and we wrote this resolution for the first time, we've had plenty of time to try to identify the faculty that wanted some help and needed some help, and we could have reached out to them, just as we all have done with our students. And I feel as if it's just the antithesis of what we did in the approach of this crisis. And I feel like as instructors, like if you gave me a list of folks, I would take a lot of my time to try to help those instructors. And I'm just wondering what a resolution does to do that. I'm rising in opposition to the resolution. I think it's opposite of what we want to do as a faculty.
Okay. Professor Chafee.
Yeah. So when was that survey sent out to students?
Oh dear. It was open for about 2 weeks towards the end of March and the beginning of April. I have the dates in my email somewhere and I can find them if you would like, but somewhere
That's
around.
okay. So it's just early on in this whole process.
True. Okay, Professor Cairo.
Thank you, Professor Hennis. So I too am in opposition, and the colleagues that have contacted me have in essence stated that even if it's 20% of the faculty that are not, say, doing their part, that means that 80% of them are. And if like Professor Stoddard stated, if there's faculty that are not doing what they should be doing, it's not the role of the Senate to create a resolution. It's the role of the administration. If there's a problem with the faculty member not teaching the way they should, then the deans, the administration should contact that faculty member and provide the needed assistance. Ask them what's wrong, ask them why he or she is not doing what they should do, but it's not the role of the Senate. That's an administrative function, not the Senate. So why we are doing this just simply does not make any sense at all. And to have, if we take a look at the time period that this survey went out, I'm sure that between now and then, a lot of the faculty that were not, we'll say, pulling their weight by now have taken training, have learned, and the situation is different. So I don't believe that given the survey that was conducted back then and the situation of faculty now, I, for example, can tell you I am a lot more efficient now than when this first thing started. As I believe all of us were more proficient at the job in terms of teaching online. So you put it all together, and my answer would be no to this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. And we ran out of time during that point. So if we can have an
Motion to extend 5 minutes. This is Lindsay Ruiz.
Professor Ruiz, okay, 5 minutes, okay. Is there a second to that extension? And I'm gonna have to ask you to verbalize it because there are a bunch of hands up.
Second. Oh.
Well, there's a second. Our minutes don't have to record who the second was, but the motion was Professor Ruiz. If there's an objection to 5 minutes by unanimous consent, then please click no, because that's the only way I'll know through these hands. Not seeing any, we're the unanimous consent. We have approved 5 minute extension. We are on to Professor Ruiz.
Thank you. I'd like to share my position and that of my faculty, and that is that if there have been indeed any faculty that have done that have responded in no way to this crisis, then that does need to be addressed, and I feel that it is the purview of the Senate to do that. This document only encourages communication and best practices in this crisis. There's no reason to
I'm
sorry. I was muted. Basically, if faculty have not been doing anything, I find it faulty logic to think that because of spring break, they've somehow had some sort of epiphany and are now functioning online. The purpose of this document is to identify the teachers who have not been serving our students. Of course, many of us are, but there are some who are not, and that is not okay. And so this document is meant to address that. I don't see any problem with that. That is our job. That is the purview of the Senate. And I believe that this should pass. My faculty have not expressed any sort of negative reaction to this. This is expected of us as our duties as instructors, and the fact that people have been negating this or denying the feel of this document, to me, is offensive. All we're trying to do is serve students. This helps that happen. This allows for best practices. And I don't see why this has not been unanimously supported. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Rose.
I just wanted to point out, and I think I mentioned this at a previous meeting, that one of the 10+1 is standards or policies regarding student preparation and success. And I think that this document recommends a standard related to student success. And also at our last student success committee meeting, which was less than 2 weeks ago, we had 3 students present, including the president of the Associated Students, and they reported that they were getting many students reaching out because of lack of responsiveness of their instructors.
Thank you, Professor Vendrosco.
I just wanted to point out, because President Hennis answered an email that I asked about this when the survey was sent out. So it was available to students from March 27th until April 10th. So some of the respondents could have answered between any time between that. And I do have an issue with the 20% number, at least how it's being interpreted, because if you look specifically at that question, what students saw is, have your instructors communicated with you since classes have moved to remote online instruction? So to me, that communicated with you, because there wasn't clarification. It's unclear if this means an individual email from the instructor or something like a mass communication by way of Canvas, which is like something that I did, but I did not, oops. But I did not communicate individually by email. So this was mass communication, and Dr. Olivo sort of alluded earlier to a number of students who had not yet been engaged with Canvas. So anyway, I just wanted to make that point, that I thought that question was unclear whether it indicates a mass communication by Canvas or an individual email directly from the instructor. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, there are several hands and we're almost out of time again. I do want to read our Associated Students representative, Irene Reyes, has typed into the chat. Our Associated Students survey also indicated there are students who are not receiving classes remotely nor lectures, and there is a lack of communication. Professor Endor. You are muted. There you are.
This strikes me as a very unfriendly document. The teachers that I've spoken to, and perhaps it's because I'm at Foothill, do not feel particularly supported. When I couldn't get a webcam, and it was impossible to buy, and I couldn't get it mailed to me, and I couldn't get FedEx to pick it up, although I was paying for it. You suggested that I talk to my dean, and my dean said, I can't do a thing for you. We don't feel particularly helped there. And there's a lot of feeling that Canvas is only of interest because it can record the hours that the teachers are teaching, and not that it's a benefit for the students. So I don't know why we need this. The professors who are not getting in touch with their students, if there still be those professors, are not going to be helped by this document, I don't think. I don't know why deans aren't calling the professors to say, are you doing this? Do you need help for it? Maybe you are not connected and you need to get some help with getting connection. So it just feels like somebody was smoking. You could go into the boys' room and smell smoke, So let's put every male in the high school on probation.
Thank you. We ran out of time again, so we can either have an extension for time or not. It's up to y'all.
Matt, I'd like to move to extend for 10 minutes. Is that too much, or should I go to 5? 5 minutes.
The original extension was for 5 minutes. Something tells me we have to stick to that, although the original item was 10 minutes. Is there a second for 5 minutes?
5 minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, so the
Second
motion
then.
made by Professor Aragon. Who was that second?
Constantine.
Thank you. Is there an objection to doing that by unanimous consent? If so, please click no. And we are 5 more minutes and then it's done for this. Professor Wilbur.
The point is, it's not about us. It's about our contract with the students. Our syllabi all lay out what we expect of our students during the course of a semester. And I think that this statement is worthwhile in making sure that our students know what to expect of us. A lot was asked of them, no question about it. And no question about it, a lot has been asked of us, but students do have an expectation as to what we supply for them. And to those ends, the vast majority of us are meeting those expectations. And the point has been brought up that the deans exist in order to make sure that professors make their job done. That's punitive though, and this isn't punitive. This is merely pointing out to students that we collectively as a body are on their side. It's not about us, it's about them. And that's why I support it. Many of your points are valid and worthwhile, and they made me think about this a great deal, but it still needs to be centered on students 100%. Thanks.
Thank you. Professor Lang.
Yes, I think that writing a resolution to share our commitment to student success by creating quality remote teaching is good. I felt that it is a little more too specific in those 2 items, like regular and effective contact and access to course materials. I think resolution is simply defined as a motion. So if we make a motion to make a commitment, that's from positive and constructive point of view. In regarding these very specific, I think that they are more like procedures, how we're gonna do it. And that's where all the DE trainings come in, 5 weeks, 8 weeks. And also that the terminology effective contact it took like many years for DE to decide what that meant. So for many faculties who suddenly within a month to jump into remote teaching, they probably have never heard about that. So it is very difficult to understand. And maybe that in a month after the summer, after these trainings, they will be more likely to understand what that is. So I would, my feeling is these, all of the very specific item like announcement discussion should be placed into the procedure for DE training instead of in the resolution.
Thank you. Professor Aragon.
Yes, thank you, Professor Hennis. Real quickly, I've been doing this counseling work for over 25 years or so, and I'm kind of on the fence with this, and that's why I wanted to extend longer here for my colleagues. But you know, I've heard complaints in my office for the last 22 years or so, right? I've heard praises in my office, and it's always the majority of good things I hear about our faculty. So that's why with this resolution, I'm a little bit on the fence with this, but I would love to have seen a resolution talking about positive things that the faculty have had to do under this crisis situation at the last minute and pull it together. Again, I've been meeting with students since March 20th, and the great majority of students have been saying good things about their professors, and I do get a few that complain about the connection. So I appreciate that, and I appreciate hearing from my colleagues. Thank you.
Thank you, Professor Ruiz. You get to go after everyone else who wants to speak has spoken. So I'm going to hold off on that for just a moment. Professor Luco.
Hi.
Hi.
It seemed to have passed with our faculty as well, and we don't see it as very aggressive because it just says recommendation. So it's almost creating norms. It's creating norms for us to have with the student. And like myself, we've been, you know, kind of, this has been given to us to do and task. And I actually like the outlining of what's expected, because then I can go ask my dean, how do I do these regular conference hours? What's best practices? It kind of gives me an idea of what I should be doing so I can monitor myself. And because DE training has not happened for this scenario, we do need something in lieu of that to let students know that faculty are aware of this. Does that kind of make sense? It's like, we don't see it as threatening, because there's nothing to say, well, if this doesn't happen, this, you know, it's not holding you to anything. It's just a statement. It's a set of norms for you to have with your students. And for the teacher that's coming into this, it's almost a little checklist for me to make sure that I'm following these things, because I haven't gone to the training yet. So that's just kind of our stance that we've kind of heard around our neck of the woods.
Thank you, Professor Winter.
Yes. The purpose of the Faculty Senate, if you look on our Faculty Senate webpage, it says it is to make, our primary function is to make recommendations with respect to academic matters. And that's all we're doing. It's not like we're going to reprimand anyone or anything. It's a mere recommendation. And as Professor Luco said, it is a good checklist. So I think it should pass. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And I see that there are 2 more hands up. It hurts my heart to do this, but we're up for time. So there is a motion on the floor. It has been seconded. The motion is to approve 20.3, the resolution. And absent any other actions here, Professor Lopez is going to call for a roll call vote.
Here we go. This is fun.
Allen,
Yes.
Aragon, Aragon,
Let's come back. We know he's present.
okay. Bauer,
Yes.
Kaido,
No.
Chafee,
Abstain.
Christensen,
Aye.
Constantine,
Abstain.
Kuat,
No, thank you.
Indoor, Indoor,
She mouthed no. She's muted, but I saw her say no.
No.
Feebig,
Yes.
Fortuna Dean,
Yes.
Foster,
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Nay.
Hinsman,
Yes.
Jaramillo,
Yes.
Jerome, Jerome,
Yes.
Larson,
No.
Ling,
Abstain.
Leon,
Yes.
Lopez, yes. Luco,
Yes.
Nonarik,
No.
Miranda,
Abstain.
Hangan, Pierce, Rigon,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
Ruiz,
Yes.
Scott, Simon,
Yes.
Stoddard,
No.
Swaminathan,
No.
Vendrasco,
No.
Vento,
No.
Wilbur,
Yes.
Williams, Winter.
Yes.
Okay, I need a minute to count these up.
Dr. Lopez?
Oh, we need to hear from Professor Aragon.
Professor Aragon.
Yep, I apologize. My iPad wasn't working. So I'm going to cast a respectful no.
Okay, thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for being assertive on that one. If you are speaking, we don't hear you. You are muted.
I was counting. I have the count.
Okay.
Okay, the ayes have it with 19, the nays 11, and abstentions 4.
All right, motion carries. And we are on to the next item. And I have to figure out what I'm sharing now. What's the next item? Proposed COVID-19 grading policy. All right. And for this, we have a guest, Dean Fleming. And my understanding is that the slides that, well, I do know that the slides I'm showing you are the same as what we showed 2 weeks ago. So Professor Fleming, or formerly known as Professor Fleming, Dean Fleming, go ahead.
Hi, everybody. I can go over it really quickly, but there aren't any significant changes. Matt, you can go to the next slide. Just very quickly to let everyone know what we're proposing today is a way to deal with final grades during this time. Specifically, we're following the guidelines of the Chancellor's Office to make sure that students aren't negatively impacted during this really difficult time for them and for everyone. So again, the proposal is that all W grades would be converted to an EW. All F grades would automatically can be converted to an EW, but students can petition to keep that F grade. There are certain populations like veterans that need that option. Students earning a grade of D may petition for the EW. Next slide. And then it's a plan for what happens for courses that we could not complete the course content in the spring term. This applies to certain lab courses, and this would assign the students an incomplete, but it's a special incomplete. We will have a tailored incomplete contract that would allow the students to be able to finish that coursework with the professor. And then again, the same rules for Fs and Ds and Ws apply here to help the students. And
Okay,
then is there another slide?
Pardon?
Was there another slide? I can't remember.
I believe there are, but there is a hand up, Professor Chafee.
Yeah, thank you. It would be awesome that I know all of this information is going to be relayed to the students, I'm sure.
Yes.
But it would be really great if we had a short thing that was sent to us that we could include when we're doing our grades at the end of the semester and we send things out to students. If we could just mass email a reminder that they're much more likely to read something from their professor, right, than just a general email from PCC. So if when I was doing my last sort of thing, I could just have a thing that I could insert in my note to my students, that would be really awesome.
Okay.
I can work with Dean Fleming on that, and then we can craft a message, and then I or someone else can send it out to all of the faculty, and with the idea of like, hey, post this in Canvas if you would like, that sort of thing.
The other thing that we can do is communicate that through the deans. The faculty tend to see them that way as well. So we can meet offline, Matt, and come up with a plan.
Sure. Professor Gonzalez.
Hi, I just had a quick not point of clarification, I'm sorry. I just wanted a little bit of clarity. Regarding the courses that cannot be completed and then given the incomplete, is there a specific list of courses, or are you keeping it vague so that other courses can apply this rule to them as well? And then I guess the second point I just wanted to ask is if the faculty are required to give the incomplete because it says will assign, and I was just wondering if that's a requirement on those courses that are going to be designated as unable to complete.
So the deans have already worked with the faculty to identify these courses. So if you're one of these faculty members that has one of these courses, you already know. And so it's a very small portion of courses. And so we will work with those faculty individually. I don't have a list of them here with me, but the deans do and the faculty already know. And so the deans worked one-on-one with the faculty to identify these specific courses.
I think some examples would be like welding and auto and that sort of thing.
Yeah, some of the health science courses, where, for example, the facilities where hours were supposed to be completed were shut down, and so the faculty could not. And so as those open up, then we'll complete the course content as we can.
Okay. There are 2 more slides.
Oh, and this goes back to Professor Foster's question earlier. And so we want to make sure that the petition to convert or to identify the pass no pass option for students, that we extend that 2 weeks after the final grades are due. Now, of course, like I said earlier, we don't know exactly when final grades are due. We're trying to be really flexible with that, but we need to sit down with instruction and student services because there are ramifications for pushing final grades back too far for students who are trying to transfer or for prerequisite issues. And so we're working on that right now, and we'll communicate that out as soon as we possibly can.
And we have a hand from Professor
Stephanie.
Drosco.
I think Dr. Olivo wanted to respond as well.
Yeah, I just wanted to add that at this point, we cannot allow students to request the EW electronically. They'd have to do it through petition after June 8th. We're right before finals week. So just to let everybody know that.
Okay, so that information should probably be included in whatever goes out from the deans or
Yeah,
whatever.
we will. We'll put all of those timelines in there.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Professor Vendrosco now.
So if a student gets a D in petitions for the EW, are they pretty much guaranteed to get it if they submit the petition?
Yes, for this term only.
Okay. And then this is a slide that I forgot to click on last time, but next steps are.
We're figuring out how to communicate this out. So this goes back to some of the suggestions. We need clear communication for the students. We need clear communication for the faculty. And then we, will also create communications from the faculty to the students as well. So we'll make sure that the students are receiving this in timely ways. We're also exploring the ramifications of all of this for financial aid. And then also we're continuing to discuss the final grades.
Okay. And to let the Senate and the reps in the Zoom know, I was going to say in the room, but this is being presented to the Academic Senate for approval, and then it would then go to College Council. It is the case that grades are a 10+1 issue, and that's why it's being presented to us as an approval item, not as an information item. We see Professor Wilbur and then Professor Foster.
Yeah, what's the likelihood that this policy, if passed, would then potentially roll over into the fall when we're still online?
You know what? We'd have to have those conversations, but we're definitely not proposing that right now. We need to figure out what's best for students in those circumstances. I mean, hopefully we're more prepared now for summer and fall, but that's not part of today's proposal. It's hard to say how likely that is. With the amount of preparation that we're now taking, but we will definitely have that conversation.
And to let you folks know, this isn't, just to clarify, it is stated that this grading policy is for spring 2020. So if it is approved by the Senate, we will know that that is in writing, that it's only for spring 2020 at the moment.
We would come back and have that conversation if that's something that we want to look at for future terms.
Yeah, Professor Foster.
I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
I second, Lindsay Ruiz.
Okay, so moved by Professor Foster, seconded by Professor Ruiz to approve this proposed grading policy. I'm going to assume that Professor Bauer's hand was up to do one of those two things. And if not, you can re-raise it. Otherwise, is there any further discussion? Are there any questions? Professor Bauer.
Yeah, I just had one question, and that is the point was made that we would readdress this
For instance, in summer, if we need to, we're not going to be meeting in summer. So if this is a 10+1, it's just a question about, you know, if I've got students in the summer who are asking, are we going to have the same arrangement? I will give them your number.
You can give them Mr. Hennis's number, but actually
that was not a threat.
I know, I'm totally kidding. It's totally fine too, but at this moment, we're not anticipating that. If that does become an issue, then we will confer with the executive committee of the Academic Senate, which your bylaws allow you to do while you're not in term.
Good.
If I remember.
Thank you.
Yeah, I was just pulling them up, but my recollection is that if things happen outside of a semester, then the executive committee acts on the behalf of the Academic Senate and then basically informs you what happened after the fact. And I'm being told by Secretary Lopez that we are out of time for this, so either an extension or a vote needs to occur. A vote it is. Secretary Lopez. Actually, you know what? Does anybody object to approving this by unanimous consent? I'm going to clear all the stuff in the participant window. If you have an objection, not necessarily to the policy, although that can cover as well. If you have an objection to approving this by unanimous consent, then please raise your hand. And I'm waiting an extra beat on purpose. Okay, then this is approved by unanimous consent. Thank you very much, Dean Fleming, and to and Dr. Olivo, to everybody who put this together. I also want to, on a personal note, extend a thank you to the administration of the college who decided this needs to go to the Academic Senate before it goes any further. So I just want to say we appreciate that.
Leslie, thank you so much, everyone. We really appreciate it.
Okay. We are now on to item J1, new business. And here's what my plan is at the moment. This item is for 10 minutes. It's guidelines for faculty inquiry groups at PCC. Subsequent to that, we have a bunch of board policies that we're going to look at. And what I have in mind is a 3-minute break before we continue on, because I have a feeling we're going to extend past 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock, not past 6. I did not mean to say that. We're going to extend past 5 o'clock, but I'd like to make good use of Director Robinson's time. So we'll go ahead and hear this item, and then we're going to take a 3-minute break if there's such a motion to do so when time comes. So we have Professor Robinson, Director Robinson. It's hard, I know. Director Robinson, Professor Hatch, Professor Foster, to share with us guidelines for faculty inquiry groups at PCC. And I have something to share with you. Well, usually that's just, it's a metaphor, but here I actually have something to share with you. And here it is. So would somebody please start talking about this document?
Thank you. Yes. Earlier, Valerie noted in the informational items a series of learning outcomes that the Professional Development Standing Committee has been working to articulate, and a second task to identify experiences that will enable people to pursue those outcomes. I'd like to now introduce one of those signature experiences for faculty that we are currently drafting, which is what is in front of you, and that is the FIG, or Faculty Inquiry Group. So my goal is just to highlight the intentions of the guidelines, which are included here. Our hope today is that we can hear some early feedback or questions that you may have to help us in the ongoing development of these guidelines. So faculty inquiry groups at PCC are not new. They have operated for some time at the college, and they've done some consequential work. A couple of notable examples include FIGs, which have explored the Bio 11 curriculum, and another one that explored statistics for liberal arts majors called SLAM. Many of you have likely been involved at some point in the inquiry, whether you call it a FIG or not. The broad intent of these guidelines presented here is simply to add supports that will increase the impact that FIGs can have by formalizing the inquiry process. So these guidelines the result of thoughtful delivery by a number of groups and individuals. It's been facilitated by Director Robinson in the Office of Professional Development in collaboration with myself as the Flexible Program Coordinator, the Professional Development Standing Committee, as well as the Senate Faculty Development Committee, and a few members as well with significant FIG experience. So as I mentioned, the broad intent of these guidelines is simply to add supports and to expand on that a little further. They are firstly to more formally acknowledge FIGs as a place where consequential work occurs. Secondly, to better elevate and leverage this consequential work. Thirdly, to provide supportive resources for the inquiry, in which we know that many faculty are already, or at least would like to be involved. And then perhaps last, bring a measure of consistency to the way faculty engage in the signature experience, while still keeping the core decision-making in the hands of those faculty who are involved. So with that being said, we'd like to open it up to your initial impressions. We may not have answers to questions, but certainly if we have a response, we'll address that. If not, we'll record it for further discussion as our work on this is ongoing.
Okay, so the Senate representatives and alternates did receive this in the packet just a few days ago. I think it went out on Thursday. And the intent here is to have a first read here. And then the hope is that we can have this in place by summer, which means seeing a second read on June 1st. So does anybody have any questions, comments, concerns regarding this document? Okay. Well, another option is to move to approve it now and okay. I just saw something happen, but I think it was Professor Hintzman has raised her hand. Go ahead.
I just wanted to say that I really appreciate this document, having been one of the faculty in the SLAM FIG. I guess we're a FIG. I didn't call us a FIG back then. But, having, we sort of floundered around trying to figure out how to best lead this project. And so having some guidelines like this, I think are very helpful, and to recognize that not all professional development needs to come from outside sources, that we have a very rich source on campus that we need to leverage. And so I appreciate this document. Thank you very much.
Did you say y'all had to figure it out? Okay. Anybody else? Yeah. Okay.
Move to approve.
There you go. We have a motion on the floor by Professor Hintzman. Is there a second?
Second, Lindsay Ruiz.
Professor Ruiz. All right. Any discussion on the motion to approve? All right. Does anybody object to approving this by unanimous consent? So I see that Professor Endor clicked a yes. I think that was just prior to my question. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to clear this out here. And if you have an objection, please so indicate in the participant window.
That was prior.
That's what I thought. Okay. All right, then. This document is approved by unanimous consent. Congratulations. Oh, Professor Molnaric has raised his hand. Go ahead.
Just to indicate that I checked off yes when you had asked about objection to.
Oh, thank you. Okay, and so we're going to back up procedurally. And so there's an objection to approving this by unanimous consent is what I'm understanding now.
Correct.
Okay, then I rescind the statement that it's been approved. And we'll, again, it's timing due to tech stuff. And are there, at this point, we will have a roll call vote unless there is a motion for another action. So is there any discussion at this point? Professor Molnaric.
Just the basis of my objection is I'd like to have time to get feedback from my division. And you indicated a moment ago this document just went out, and I haven't had any opportunity to contact people yet and hear from them what they think of this.
Right, I understand. Okay, then an appropriate action to take would be a motion to postpone. Now, if that occurs and then it is approved, then there won't be any further chance for discussion. So I want to make sure that if there are any points of discussion that they're able to be brought up. I did see that Professor Aragon raised a hand, but then put it down. And then we have Professor Lang and Professor Foster. So Professor Aragon?
Yes, I would just want to agree with my colleague and again, bring this back. I think it's a wonderful document, but I'd like the counselors to have a chance to view it. That's all. Thank you.
Yes, Professor Lang.
Excuse me, Matt. This is Sheila. I'm having a lot of questions about this from adjunct faculty, and I think this is a very timely issue. And so I would really encourage that the Senate vote on it. We've had several weeks to bring this to our constituents.
Professor Lang.
Yes, I think it's good. I want to clarify something. In the selection process, there's one bullet point dependent upon funding sources, and the rest of the circular bullet through funded, but didn't really specify exactly what is the selection process. So I just wonder if it's missing other bullet points or something. But it did explain the different sources of grants, but not. I just want to know what that meant. Selection process. Select people, members.
I'll preface the answer that you're about to hear with, I was told that this has been left intentionally vague because it didn't want to articulate anything concrete. But if anybody wants to expand on that.
Point of order, what motion are we discussing right now? Are we discussing approving the document, or?
That is the only motion on the floor.
I thought, are we discussing unanimous consent, or I thought we were doing that?
The motion had been to approve the document. There was an objection to doing so via unanimous consent.
Got it.
So we're back to the original motion of approving the document.
Okay, got it.
Thank you.
Matt, I would like to call the question.
I need you to raise your hand.
Give me a second.
I will recognize Professor Rose, and Professor Rose has moved to call the question. A parliamentarian, can you help me out? I don't remember if there is required a second for that, but it does require a 2/3 vote to call the question. Just to play it safe, is there a second to the motion to call the question?
I second the motion to call the question.
Professor Ruiz has seconded it. There is no discussion on a motion to call the question. And so we need this to be a roll call vote to call the question. To clarify, a yes vote at the moment means yes, I want to vote on this right now. A no vote at the moment means no, I do not. So, Professor Lopez.
Just to clarify, a yes vote is to vote on it now, and a no vote is to not vote on it now.
Correct.
Okay. Allen.
Yes.
Aragon.
No.
Bauer.
Yes.
Keitel. Keitel. Chafee.
Sorry, I'm muted.
Sorry.
Let's go to Cairo. Cairo, what's your answer?
The answer was no.
Okay, and then we're out to Chafee.
Chafee.
Yeah, if people want to take this back to their faculties, I don't know why they shouldn't. So no.
Okay, and thank you. Go ahead.
Christensen.
Abstain.
Constantine.
Yes.
Kuat.
No, thank you.
Indoor.
No.
Bebig.
Yes.
Fortuna Dean.
No.
Foster.
Yes.
Gonzalez.
No.
Hinsman.
No.
Jaramillo, excuse me.
Abstain.
Jerome. Jerome.
No.
Thank you. Larson.
No.
Ling,
No.
Leon,
No.
Lopez, abstain. Luco, Luco, Milnaric,
No.
Miranda,
No.
Pangan, Pierce, Rigon,
No.
Rodriguez,
No.
Rose,
Yes.
Reese.
Yes.
Excuse me,
My answer was yes.
thank you. Scott, Simon,
Yes.
Stoddard,
No.
Swaminathan,
No.
Vendrasco,
No.
Vento, Vento, Wilbur,
Abstain.
Winter.
Yes.
The nays have it.
Correct. Okay. Then the motion to call the question fails. We still have the original motion on the floor, which is to approve the document. Is there any further discussion? Professor Rose, is your hand up new or still?
Bill, I'll take it down.
Okay. Then is there any further discussion? Professor Hintzman.
I move to postpone the vote until our next meeting.
I'd like to
Okay.
second that.
That's Professor Aragon seconding.
Thank you.
Okay. Our parliamentarian has another appointment. And so let's see, a move to postpone is debatable. And so is there any discussion on whether or not to postpone? We now have some hands up. Professor Chafee.
Oh, I was just going to say what Linda said. So
Gotcha. And then Professor Bauer, your hand was up and then down. Yes.
Yeah, I was just going to mention, as a member of the Professional Development Standing Committee, this is really, the question came up about funding a little bit earlier, and this is not really a source to provide funding unless it does become available. So if it appears that it's been left vague, it's not for lack of transparency. This document is really just to provide some guidance for people who are interested in starting a FIG. So I want to make sure that it's clear that it's not going to restrict people's access to create. If they want to create a FIG on their own, they're welcome to do it. And so I'm not sure that that was made clear earlier with the number of folks that wanted to take this back to groups. This is not going to restrict your ability to do whatever you're doing right now.
Thank you.
Sure.
Is there any other discussion? Any further? Oh, there. So wait, this is now on a motion to postpone. Excuse me, I got lost a little bit there. Is there any more discussion on the motion to postpone until the next Academic Senate meeting? Okay. Does anybody object to approving the motion to postpone by unanimous consent? Again, waiting an extra beat. I don't see it. By unanimous consent, the motion to postpone till the next Academic Senate meeting carries. What I will ask is if you have any questions that come up from your division representatives about this document, that you please forward those questions to Professor Nick Hatch and or Professor Valerie Foster. And if you would like, CC Director Jason Robinson. My hope is that that getting answers to those questions would expedite the process when we revisit this at the next Academic Senate meeting. Thank you to the three of you for bringing this to the Academic Senate. Can I have a request? Oh, and I will, since I read before a thing in the chat, since that is now out of the way, Dr. Olivo has said that faculty inquiry is one of the main ways to address equity gaps. And I think that that's a powerful thought. So take that with you as you think over this for the next couple of weeks, and nothing else, I'm sure. And I request now a 3-minute recess. Will somebody move to take a break for 3 minutes?
I move we have a 3-minute potty break.
Second.
Second.
Okay, and if there are no objections, we're going to do that by unanimous consent. And I am actually going to share a timer here. And so we're going to, there it is. We are on a 3-minute break. Okay, and we are back. Where are we now? Okay. I need to have, that's not the right document. Just a moment, I need to get myself situated here. I have too many folders. Board meetings, and then here. And what I'm opening up, by the way, is our packet, which has a bunch of board policies that are fairly short, but they're still important. And let me start that share. I think this is it. Oh, good. Okay, so we are now going to look at board policies here. And now that I've gotten this all in front of us, I do want to take a moment to just remind ourselves where we are with the agenda. And so here we are, and we are looking at, we have a few administrative, well, these are board policies. The first 4 are going to be presented by Dr. Mike Bush. I hope you are, I see your name there, so you are still here. And then subsequent to that, we have a couple that will be presented by Dr. Blazinski, and then one from Jesse Wing. So let's go ahead and I will now share this document again, now that I have found it. And here it is. So Dr. Bush, you're up. Perhaps you can just briefly go through these 4, like the purpose of them, are they new, and then just what they are one by one.
Be happy to. Thank you. The Senate may recall that I was before you several months ago, and I shared that we had a whole list of legally mandated board policies that our district does not have. And this is the last set of the legally mandated policies. We've gone through 2 rounds of this already. So first one is child abuse reporting. This is legally mandated because we do have a child care center and we are legally mandated reporters. You want to go to the next one? Or do you want to take these one at a time or all at once?
Maybe you can introduce them all at once, and then I'm hoping that we can approve them by one vote.
Okay.
But that'll be up to the Senate.
The next one is a legally required about local law enforcement, that we are to have an agreement in place with the local law enforcement on how we share jurisdiction and the support they provide us in investigations. We do have the agreement, but we don't have the policy, that the underpinning policy. So this is the policy that would support our agreement.
Okay. And is there anything, are there any sticking points in it?
Not this one.
Okay. Oh dear.
Okay. Weapons on campus. This just says that if someone brings a weapon on campus, they have to go to the police department and register that they have a weapon on campus, and they have to be authorized by an official law enforcement agency.
Okay. And then
this is the one that has a little different in it. As you know, we're not supposed to have alcoholic beverages on campus. There are 2 exceptions to that. One is if we have a culinary program that has a gourmet room, they're teaching about wine, or we have a brewing program. That's not part of this policy. The second exception is for foundations. They can have events on campus and serve alcoholic beverages as long as the serving of the alcoholic beverage is not the main fundraiser. So if the foundation has a speaker series and they have wine and cheese, that's fine, but we cannot have a beer garden to raise money. So this would allow our foundation to save a lot of money that they're currently spending at the Athenaeum by hosting events on our campus.
Okay. So those are the 4 administrative procedures that are being brought by Dr. Bush here. And what I'm going to request is a motion to approve. These are agenda items J1, 2, A through, wait a minute. I think there was one more. At 4, it's 5. There's another one on police departments.
Yeah, BP 7600.
Yes.
This is the policy that states we will have a police department. Districts should have a policy, either they have security or that they have a police department, and we have a police department with post-certified police officers. And this talks about the oversight of that department.
We absolutely do. And I saw 2 of them received a commendation for going above and beyond by saving a life in the library a couple of months ago, or the commendation was a couple of months ago.
Right.
Okay, then, so what I'm going to ask for is a motion to approve
Yeah, I
items.
move that.
Pardon?
I move that.
Okay, so just, is there a, well, before we get a second, let's make sure we know what I'm asking for. A motion to approve items J1, 2A through E, these 5 BPs that Dr. Butch just went over.
Second.
That's Professor Stoddard. Okay, is there, and Professor Melnarek has a hand up?
Yeah, I just have a question. If we're approving all 5 of these, implied in that is AP to follow later?
That's our plan. I don't know if it's necessary
to clarify that
in the vote, but that's our intent.
Okay.
Yeah, I think we've kind of seen this pattern going throughout the year. We're getting the BPs in place and then the APs are a little bit longer. But there is a, now I'll put it on the floor. There's a motion that's been made to approve these 5 APs. They're items J1, 2, A through E. And it has been seconded. So now at this point, if there's any discussion on the motion to approve, Professor Constantine.
Yeah, just for clarification, so wine is not considered alcohol?
It is. This is an exception for the foundation to be able to serve.
Okay, thank you.
So I think the wording here is alcoholic beverages shall not be served except in accordance with procedures that will be described in the forthcoming AP 3560. Is that what I understand?
Yes.
Okay.
You see up above where it says, or at fundraising events.
Okay. So held by, to benefit nonprofit corporations. Got it. Okay. Professor Winter.
Yes, you had mentioned that culinary would be exempt from this, that they could cook with alcohol or whatever. Is that also going to be an Administrative Procedure 3560?
Well, to clarify, it's currently not part of the policy. At the time our culinary program gets their gourmet dining room and they want to teach the students how to serve wine, then we'll add it into the policy at that point.
What about to cook with alcohol?
Pardon?
What about to cook with alcohol? Not necessarily.
They don't need it to cook. They need it to serve and people to consume it.
But don't they need it to cook also?
No.
I think what you mean is they don't need a policy in order to cook with wine?
Correct.
But they do need a policy if the act is to either serve or imbibe.
Yeah, consuming of the alcoholic beverage.
So if they're cooking it and the students are consuming what they cook, that's okay if it's with alcohol?
There won't be alcohol in it after it's cooked. The alcohol will cook off.
Well, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So it has to still be alcohol when it's in the mouth, I guess.
Yes.
Professor Aragon.
Yes, thank you so much. A couple of questions in regards to the firearms. I did serve way back in the day on a committee appointed by the Senate for seeing if the officers could carry guns, but did I hear you say that students could carry guns if they had a particular permission? I thought that's what I heard. I apologize.
If the student is a member of law enforcement and they must carry a concealed weapon as part of their job, yes. This has more to do when law enforcement comes on campus with weapons. Also note that we actually hand firearms to our faculty and students when we teach a course. And the district owns several types of firearms. So this covers that we have a course on about firearms.
Okay, one other point, I'm sorry, Matt, Mr. President, one other question. In regards to the alcoholic beverages, are you saying then that other of us that have fundraisers on campus to raise scholarships, for example, could have alcohol at those events if it's approved by the president or only the foundation?
It must be through the foundation. So if the foundation was doing a fundraiser on your organization's behalf for the college, they could serve it.
Thank you.
And I presume that that would be outlined in the AP.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Is there, well, these are AP. I have this sense that AP should be done by an actual vote. And so we are going to have a roll call vote to approve these 5 APs. I think I caught, no, there she is.
Okay, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Allen,
Yes.
Aragon,
Aye.
Bauer,
Yes.
Cairo, Chafee,
Sorry,
Yes.
abstain. Apologize.
Was that abstain, Cairo?
Yes, I apologize.
Thank you.
Christensen,
Aye.
Constantine, Constantine, Indoor,
Yes.
Big,
Yes.
Fortuna Dean,
Yes.
Sorry, it's
Foster?
Constantine, yes.
Yes.
Gonzalez,
Aye.
Hinsman,
Yes.
Jaramillo,
Aye.
Jerome,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Ling, Lang, Leon,
Yes.
Lopez, yes. Luco,
Yes.
Menarik,
Aye.
Miranda,
She has vacated.
Rigon,
Yes.
Rodriguez,
Yes.
Rose,
Yes.
Ruiz,
Yes.
Simon,
Yes.
Stoddard,
Yes.
Swaminathan,
Yes.
Vendrasco,
Yes.
Wilbur,
Yep.
Winter.
Yes.
I may have been skipped over, but I'm a yes as well, please.
Who is that?
Hewitt.
Oh, I'm sorry, that was my
That's okay.
fault.
Thanks.
Thank you. Okay, the ayes have it with 1 abstention.
Then that motion
Yeah.
carries. Yeah. Okay. Thought I heard a voice there. I mean,
Yes, I'm sorry, Mr. President.
oh, did we needed to come back to Professor Constantine, excuse me.
Yeah, that's fine.
Oh, but he said yes.
He did say
And-
Yes.
Okay, Professor Aragon, you have a hand up?
Yes, Professor Miranda had to get to a student appointment. Could we record the vote of our alternate, Dr. Antoji, Dr. Miriam? Appropriate?
That is appropriate. Thank you for pointing that out. I was aware that Professor Miranda had to be with a student, but thank you for reminding me that we have something to do to take care of this situation. Professor Altunji, are you still with us?
Oh, yes.
Okay, then I'm going to let Professor Lopez call your name.
Miriam Altunji,
Yes.
Okay,
Dr. Friend. Thank you.
Dr. Friend.
I
The ayes
appreciate.
have it.
Okay, the ayes have it. So that motion carries. I appreciate the attention to detail there and to make sure that your division is continuing to be represented. Then we will now move, and thank you, Dr. Bush, for your time and for presenting these to us.
Thank you.
And I appreciate that the Senate was able to get through them so that you can present them to College Council on Thursday.
I'll look forward to it. Thank you.
Yes. Okay. Next up, we have, do we have Dr. Blazinski in the room? I do not see Dr. Blazinski. We will then come back to that. Do we have Jesse Wang in the room? I see your name, Jesse. So we are going to look at now AP 6302, purchases of food and refreshments. Well, that is, I see somebody named Jesse.
I'm here. Sorry.
There you are. Okay.
Hi, everybody.
Hi. Tell us about this AP.
Sure. Okay, hang on just 1 second. Okay, so this AP addresses, we received quite a bit of questions in regards to in under what circumstances we can purchase food or beverages using district funds. So instead of address them case by case, we decided to put together this uniform AP where it attempts to clarify some of these questions that we received. But before we dive in deeper, I just wanted to mention that this AP addresses funds that are normal district funds, meaning those unrestricted funding sources from our general fund. So if you're going to be using money from a state or federal grant, then those policies and procedures in those grants would supersede this AP. So with that being said, let's take a look at this. So basically, what we can use the money for is if the event is necessary, infrequent, or not extravagant. So for example, so that if we have a meeting that takes place during lunchtime where it prevents attendees from breaking for lunch, then it would be allowable for food and beverages to be served at this particular function. But on the other hand, if the meal is regularly served to a reoccurring meeting to the same group of folks, then the allowability would probably in question. So it may be, so if we're talking about this circumstance, it may be more appropriate to look for other funding source, such as maybe through their foundation or through a booster club or this type. So that pretty much summarizes it. And I'll hand it back to Mr. President.
Okay. Can we have a motion to approve AP 6302?
Motion to approve 6302, Lindsay Ruiz.
Professor Ruiz has moved. Is there a second?
By Linda Hintzman.
Seconded by Professor Hintzman. Thank you. And I've heard some people leaving. And so I just need to do a quick check, and I apologize for the time for this, folks, but I need to know that we still have quorum. And so if you would just click yes in the participant window if you are a Senate representative right now. Okay, we're good. Thank you for that. Now I'm going to clear you all out. And is there any discussion, any questions, anything about AP 6302? Professor Simon. If you're talking, we don't hear you.
Let me try that again.
There you go.
Who makes the determination, or is there going to be something more specific about how it's determined if an expense is extravagant or lavish? That seems very subjective.
Yeah, this would be, I would say, the common sense test. So if something that is, like, let's say if we do those lunch boxes that we serve during professional development day, then that would definitely be not extravagant or not lavish. But we're talking about, a champagne brunch or we're serving lobsters and steak, then that will probably a little bit more extravagant than the norm working lunch.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Professor Bauer.
I have one question, and that is, what are the major changes that have been proposed within this policy by comparison to what we're doing right now?
So this is a new policy. We've actually never had a standardized policy before, but there's been a lot of questions surrounding this. And from what I found out, that fiscal services in the college has been making determination on a case-by-case basis, and it may not be always consistent. So we thought for the good of the district, and we'll have something more consistent going forward, so then we can have more transparency when making this type of decisions.
Okay, I had been under the impression that for events such as with the box lunches that we needed to go through the on-campus
I-8.
I-8, right? Is that's not, this is not going to be altered by that, or?
Oh, no, this will not be altered by that.
Okay.
This AP just mainly help us figure out whether we can have I-8 at certain functions, whether it's I-8 or another vendor that you bring in. Yeah, so it does not dictate which vendor to use.
And as a point, another point of clarification, our contract with I-8 will be up in June. And so they had been considering other options as well. I think that would be implemented in July with, I think, a new contract. Okay. Any other questions or discussion? I'm not seeing any, and we have a motion on the floor. So we are going to, again, hold a roll call vote. Professor Lopez.
I need just a moment to clear my slate.
Of course.
Okay. Alan?
Yes.
They combined all.
Aragon?
Aye.
Bauer?
Aye.
Kaido? Kaido?
I'm not sure if you called Chafee, but something,
I know,
my
I'm still,
audio is pretty bad.
I'm still on Kaido, but now Chafee.
Oh. Okay, yes.
Christensen?
Aye.
Constantine?
Aye.
Kuat? Kuat? Indoor?
Yes.
Feebig? Fortunadine?
Yes.
Foster?
Yes.
Gonzalez?
Aye.
Hinsman?
Yes.
Jaramillo?
Yes.
Jerome?
Yes.
Larson?
Yes.
Lang? Lang? Leon?
Yes.
Lopez? Yes. Luco?
Yes.
Malneric? Malneric?
Aye.
Altunji?
Yes.
Rigon?
Yes.
Rodriguez?
Yes.
Yes.
Rose? Ruiz?
Yes.
Simon?
Yes.
Stoddard?
Yes.
Swaminathan?
Yes.
Vendrasco?
Yes.
Wilbur?
Yes.
Winter?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Motion carries. Um, Now, as I've said, I feel with APs and BPs, I feel that the actual vote is important. If you have a sentiment to the contrary and would prefer to handle APs and BPs by unanimous consent while we're doing remote meetings, then I would entertain that, but it's just, I think, not just a matter of, they're not perfunctory in my thinking right now. And I'm still waiting on Dr. Blazinski. So we are going to move on to item J3 for the moment. And this is presented as a first read for today with hopes that it will be approved, they will be adopted by the Senate next meeting. So Professor Alvarado, thank you for, oh, thank you, excuse me. Thank you, Jesse Wing, for being here to present that to us. And that's just one more thing for College Council on Thursday. Okay. And while I'm at it, thank you everybody for sticking around. I do appreciate that. Professor Alvarado.
Thank you. So I have 4 recommendations that I'm bringing forward today, and I want to give you a little bit of background about them. So these come from the Faculty Committee on Online Education. The committee is composed of 15 faculty members from various divisions around campus, including the FA. And one of our goals this year was to update our recommendations. The originals are currently located on the shared governance site under the Faculty Committee on Online Education. These were last updated in 2010, and they were approved by the Senate at that time. So as a subcommittee of the Academic Senate, we're bringing the new ones forward, and this is the first batch. These recommendations aren't binding. They do have to do with some working conditions, and they're not binding. Anything that we negotiate in the contract, of course, trumps our recommendations, but they are used to inform negotiations. So with that in mind, we're hoping to update them. So just to give you a brief overview, 108 looks at a change in the percentage of office hours that can be kept online, and it changes it from an arbitrary 40% for full-time faculty to a percentage that's commensurate with the percentage that the faculty member actually has their online teaching load. 109 looks at what load a faculty member can actually teach online, and it changes it again from an arbitrary 66% to a flexible 100%. 116, the big change here looks specifically at the evaluation addendum. And if any of you have ever evaluated faculty in an online course, the standard rubric that we use to do that doesn't translate very well online. So there are 2 changes here, and they're highlighted in yellow that are specific to online education. And then lastly, recommendation 117 is sort of a wish list of support services for distance education.
Okay. And it's worth noting that this doesn't have anything to do with our current COVID situation. These are, as was referenced, these have been on the books for years, and these are just the committee is doing its work and making these recommendations. So wanted to make sure that that was known by everybody. We can go a couple of different ways with this. I think if the parliamentarian was here, he would say we need a motion before a discussion. It would be appropriate to make a motion to, and I'm glad you're here, Professor Alvarado. Is it, would we be moving to approve, adopt? It sounds like we'd be approving the recommendations.
Correct.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve these 4 recommendations from the Faculty Committee for Online Education? Professor Stoddard.
I move that we accept these.
Okay, thank you. And I'm going to change that word to say your motion is to approve these.
I'm sorry. Yes.
It's okay. It's as
I
long
move
as
that we approve these recommendations.
Thank you. As long as it works for you. Is there a second to the motion?
I second.
Professor Monarek. Okay. I almost asked all in favor. Is there any discussion now that we have a motion on the floor to approve these 4 recommendations? Professor Wilbur.
This is all pretty abrupt and tacked on at the very end of a very long meeting. I would support that we push this off till the next meeting. There's a lot to discuss here, especially the arbitrariness of 66% versus flexibility of 100%. There's a lot to discuss here, and we're already 40 minutes past our prime. I've got another meeting with a student in a few moments. I think this is important and should be discussed, and this is all just ripped through at the very, very end.
Your point is well taken. The intent was, and if you, and what I intended, or what I attempted to communicate with the table of contents of today's packet was that this is being recommended for approval for June 1st, but this is an opportunity to hash out some of those questions or concerns so that it is not so abrupt in 2 weeks. But your point is well taken. Is there, can you speak to the 2/3 versus 100%?
Yeah, the point was made that 66% is arbitrary and 100% is flexible. I don't see how 100% best serves students' needs versus 66%.
Okay, and two things. Number one, I'm told that this should have been struck out. I don't know why that didn't come through. So there should be a strikeout here. And then the second is, I was actually asking Dr. Alvarado, Dr. Alvarado to speak to that, to the point that was raised.
So what recommendation 109 does is it allows faculty the option to teach up to 100% of their courses online if their department has the course needs. So basically, if there's student demand. Of course, it would still be up to the deans and the coordinators of division chairs to actually schedule these courses. But what it does is it gives us the flexibility if there is demand for these online courses, and if instructors want to teach up to 100% of their load online, this this recommendation makes it so that they have the flexibility to be able to do that. The 66% from before, again, this policy was written back in, this recommendation was written back in 2010. So the faculty committee members believed that it was outdated to cap it at 66%, and that's why we upped it to the 100%.
So this would offer a division that has a bunch of 3-hour classes the opportunity to teach, say, an 80% load online if they wanted.
Correct.
Okay. Oh, I'm told we're time for this. Just before the time though, Professor Wilbur had his hand up.
So I still don't see how 100% best serves students' needs per professor. If there's a need for online education in a particular department, then that can be fulfilled by all of the professors. I don't see how allowing particular professors to not have to come to campus best serves students' needs. Considering that we were all hired to be professors on campus in person originally, that is antithetical to being on campus. And I understand that there might be a need for some of those classes, but I don't see why any one professor would have to be 100% online or distance ed and potentially not have an office on campus anymore.
Okay, I'm going to pause now to ask if there's a motion to extend this. So this was really going to be presented as a first read. You were going to look at it over the next couple of weeks. But now if we can engage in discussion now to expedite things in a couple of weeks. So is there a motion to extend? Oh.
Move to extend by 5 minutes, Linda Hinsman.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
Second to that motion.
Okay,
Professor
that's going to be, who's that?
Professor Rigon.
Thank you, Professor Rigon. Okay, and now there are hands up, Professor Chafee and then Professor Hinsman. Oh, it's unless there's an objection, we're going to approve that by unanimous consent. All right, 5 minutes. His motion carries by unanimous consent. Professor Chafee.
Yeah, this is just regarding what Professor Wilbur said. His point is well taken, but I would like to remind us all that as far as serving students' needs, the dean is still responsible for scheduling. And so if the dean is feeling that there needs to be more, my cat is upset, needs to be more people teaching on campus, then they would schedule that.
Okay, Professor Hinsman.
I do two things. One, I do share Professor Wilbur's concern that 100% online teaching would make it more difficult for the faculty member to uphold the rest of their contractual obligations. We're not just hired to teach, but we have shared governance and other things like that that I I worry would fall in the cracks. And I had a clarification on recommendation 108 on page 2.
I'm getting there.
Yep, right.
There.
Okay, in the yellow bullet point, office conference hours must be scheduled over at least 2-3 days.
That was probably a strikeout again.
Correct.
Okay, maybe.
And which
Is
one
it-
should be
Is
struck?
it 2 or is it 3?
So we actually struck that entire bullet point.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
I don't know why these didn't come through. I apologize. Professor Rigon.
Yes, mine's a point of clarification. I'm sorry if I don't understand this clearly, but what does it actually mean, teaching 100%, but then there is another paragraph behind that seems to say that it has to be 2/3 of the contractual obligation. Can I have an explanation of what it actually means for a faculty?
Are you referring to recommendation 109 here?
Yes.
Okay, so the statement is that the should not exceed 2/3 should be strucken out. It's that the 100% is intended to replace that not to exceed 2/3 clause.
Thank you. So therefore, what it means is that a professor could teach 100% of the contractual obligation online, potentially.
That would be that's the recommendation.
Okay, thank you.
Is there any further discussion on this? Okay, then Professor Wilbur.
Yeah, one last quick point. I would point out that we aren't an online college. We're still an in-person college. We still have a campus. We still have facilities. We still have classrooms. We still have lab courses. I understand that there's certainly a need for online classes, but not 100% of that.
Okay, and we're talking about 100% of one particular faculty member's load, not 100% of a program or a college, just to clarify that language there.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah, Professor Bauer.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up the wording. It had said previously should not exceed. So if a dean wanted to override that, my impression is that they could. It says that it cannot exceed, may not exceed, but should not exceed to me seems like there's room. This is something I would like to discuss with some of my colleagues before we vote on it, but it sounds like, well, I'll leave it there.
Got it. Professor, since Professor Hintzman has already spoken, I'm going to go to Professor Stoddard.
Just for clarification, so if the Senate would like to postpone this, then we'd need another motion to postpone this, correct?
We could, probably, yes, we should do that. Professor Hintzman.
I would like to move we postpone the vote on this item until our next meeting.
It's like y'all planned that. Is there a second to that motion to postpone?
Yes.
Okay. Who's that?
The cat.
Dr. Chafee. Okay. Then it's been moved and seconded to postpone this. And unless there are any objections to the postponement, we will approve the postponement by a unanimous consent. Okay, then that motion carries by unanimous consent. I will obtain from Dr. Alvarado one that has correct strikeouts. I'll look and see if it was my error, and it very well could have been. Thank you, Dr. Alvarado, for being here today, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. And then we'll go, I will just show you the BPs that I keep referencing here. One of them delegates authority to the superintendent president to authorize employment, fix responsibilities, and perform other personnel actions. The Board of Trustees has the authority to delegate authority to one person. because the Board of Trustees has exactly one employee, that being the superintendent president. So that's this BP here. The second BP, the board shall accept the resignation of any employee and fixes the time when it will take effect. It stipulates a timeline here, and resignations will be forwarded to the board for ratification. Resignation is final, and after been accepted by the superintendent president, resignation is final. It may not be rescinded. That is the basically the crux of 7350. We could do one of two things. I am told that there is an emergency situation that is preventing Dr. Blazinski from being here today. I was asked we could have these for College Council on Thursday, although I'm not going to force the issue. We could have a motion to approve these, or we could just let them reappear in 2 weeks. Not seeing a motion to approve, they will reappear in 2 weeks. Then we are on to the last portion of the agenda, which is the officers' reports. And I'm going to give you the screen share here so that you can see what Professor Rose is going to tell you. We're going to get to the treasurer's report. Now you are on, Professor Rose.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm not seeing the numbers, Matt.
Apparently I'm not sharing it there.
Okay, thank you. So I'd just like to read into the record the balances. So as of May 4th, 2020, the total for checking and savings was $20,821.87. As of May 14th, $21,176.37 for an increase of $354.50. Thank you.
Yay. Okay, thank you. Do we have anything from the Vice President?
No report.
Secretary?
No report.
Okay, I do have something to share. I do want to share with you. There has been a hiring freeze for faculty positions. We were originally going to go out for about 25 positions. That number was changed to 20 positions. Of those 20 positions, 8 prospective new faculty members have been offered and accepted employment. Those 8 will be hired. Those 8 are good. The other 12, not so much. The state is not fining colleges for FON until next year. So there's a moratorium on fines for FON, but if we don't meet FON this year, that fine will come up if we don't meet FON eventually. I and the Vice President of Instruction are advocating for a nursing faculty member and the psychology instructor position. Without a nursing faculty member, the nursing program faces a difficulty with their accreditation board. And the psychology instructor was #1 on like everybody's lists. They have a dire need to meet their student demand. And so I have requested that the superintendent president reconsider the psychology instructor position. And the best I got was that she would take it under advisement, which I took to be a positive thing because she didn't say no. Professor Luco?
Hello, sorry.
Yes.
Well, this kind of, I didn't have time to discuss, and I think now that you've mentioned the hiring, because there was a question from Professor Kaido.
Right, that professor.
Anything we forwarded has gone through.
Right, so what I'm talking
and
about.
The committees were okay, and
what I'm talking about at the moment are faculty hires. When the Academic Senate approves names for hiring committees, those are not faculty hires. Faculty hiring committees are composed of people who are selected by their division.
Okay,
because when we
because
forward names, they're like administrative or they are classified.
So what about the career counseling position? Because that one.
Counseling is a faculty position.
Correct. So like.
Career counseling did not make the list. I can tell you the 8 that got hired.
They didn't. No, I know. I was on that committee, and it's just right at second level. I mean, it was absolutely horrible.
No, it was. The decision was made that any hiring processes that were still being conducted that had not been concluded were put on were suspended.
Okay. Is there any transparency other than going through certain channels on whom is making these decisions and with what impacts?
Okay.
Because like the dean position was pulled for applied technology, but yet we're going to have we're still going forward with a football coach when we don't even know if sports is going to happen.
So I actually asked about the football coach, not because I have anything against football, but it was in juxtaposition with the counseling, with the psychology instructor. And I asked how many folks are impacted by a football coach versus like a psychology instructor. And I was told two things. Number one, that the football coach is, it's about 3 psychology classes worth of individuals. Number two, sports in general have a positive and disproportionate impact to vulnerable populations. So there's that.
Yet we don't know if football is going to happen in the fall.
I understand.
It just seems a little, when they pull the dean position of applied technology where there's a need, are we playing, poker? So I just want something on the record. I have serious issues with the stuff going on.
Well, yeah, I get that. A lot of the classified hiring has been frozen as well. I'm here to report on the faculty hiring, but the decisions are being made by, I believe, it's by the executive committee of the college, but primarily, I mean, the responsibility rests with the superintendent president. We're looking at maybe a 15-ish% reduction in our apportionment moving forward. And each of these faculty positions is worth maybe $140-something thousand a year. Yeah. And so the idea is, they add up and every bit counts. That's how it's been presented to me. At this point, it's information. It is, the college has made this decision, or the executive committee of the college has made this decision, but I don't argue with your point. I'm clear. I'm giving you I did raise
the rationale that you got. Yeah.
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 I see that Professor Ragone has a hand up as well.
Yes. Mr. President, can we have a list of the positions that were offered and accepted?
Yes, it is. Business math, women's soccer coach. They also teach in kinesiology, in the kinesiology division. ASL, that's American Sign Language, computer science, biology, chemistry, engineering, and child development.
Thank you.
Yes, and they weren't, these didn't make the list because they were prioritized in any particular way. This was due to timing. Those processes had been concluded before the college made the decision to stop hiring. That decision to stop hiring is partially due to the May revise. There will be an extended revise that we're going to see in August once the income taxes come in. The state of California is looking at a bare bones budget. So, and that's part of my report from BRAC. They have reported out. And then I also wanted to share with you, the executive committee has been bringing up with administrators the important issue of academic integrity. We heard about some of the drawbacks to proctorial earlier on. What I do want to share with you is, in the event that students have been caught cheating, please fill out a student misconduct form, because it does allow the college to identify patterns if they exist. And so please communicate that to your constituents. We do still care about academic integrity. I'm going to call this my report. If there are any future agenda items, you can bring them up now. Okay, we have one more meeting of the semester. It'll happen in 2 weeks. I do appreciate all of your time and being here for an extra hour. Susan Gonzalez, we have a hand up.
Mark, nothing really to add. I just wanted to ask if with the email where you send out the FIG document, would you mind resending the resolution as well that passed today, the 20.3?
Sure thing.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Likely I'm going to send that out to the campus, but I'll send it out in 2 separate emails. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure thing. Professor Stoddard.
Thank you. I wanted to make an announcement that the kinesiology
announcements. Go ahead.
that the kinesiology department and athletic department are working with the PCC Foundation to do a virtual 5K walk run that you can go to the PCC Foundation website and look at how you can sign up. It is a fee of $40. You'll do it soon. You can get a t-shirt. So when you're doing your walk run, which you measure yourself and do by yourself, you can get that before you do the run, which is June 12, 13, and 14. I'm sorry to take extra time. I just was waiting for announcements.
No, that's fine. It's thank you. Are there any further announcements? All right, then we will adjourn, seeing it is well past time. Again, thank you all. We're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks. See you guys in 2 weeks.
Thanks.
Hey, everybody, take care.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Hey, great job, man. Keep up the good work, man.
Thanks, Bevel. I appreciate it.
See you later, Bevel.
Mr. Christensen, I hope you have your suspenders on. I didn't see them today.